In this video, we're going to define the opposite of a number and then use number lines to find opposites of numbers. So let's look at the definition of an opposite. The opposite of a non-zero number is a number that has the same absolute value of the number but does not equal the number. Another useful way of thinking of opposites is to place a negative sign in front of the number. So the opposite of 4 is, well, we can think of the opposite of 4 is equal to negative 4. So negative 4 is 4's opposite. Similarly, the opposite of negative 4 is the opposite of negative 4, which is positive 4. So now we're going to look at number lines to get a better idea visually of why this is the case. So first we're asked to plot the number 5 on the number line below. Here's our number line, and 1 will be a good scale because we can get 5 on here. There are 5 tick marks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in the negative direction, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, and negative 5. So plot the number 5. That's located right here, and I'm going to put a dot. I'm going to write that it's on the number line below. Next, we're asked to draw an arrow that shows the reflection of 5 about the reflection line to find 5's opposite. So in terms of a number line, we can think of the opposite number, remember, as the equal distance from 0, but not equal to the number. So we have this distance. We want to look in the other direction, this distance. And we could think of this as the mirror image across or about the number 0. So I'm going to reflect this. So think of how a mirror would reflect this. We got to 0. Now we want to go the same distance in the other direction. There's our arrow. And there is the opposite of 5, which is negative 5. Okay, so here we'll put below because we drew our arrow. And then we can say the opposite of 5, or we'll read this, the opposite of 5. When the number is in parentheses, typically we read this as an opposite, is negative 5. Let's look at the next one. Draw an arrow that shows the reflection of negative 5 about the reflection line to find negative 5's opposite. Let's use a different color. So now we're going to start at negative 5 and reflect about 0 to find the number equidistant to 0 on the other side of 0. And notice that just takes us back to 5. So we can say the opposite of negative 5, or here we have it in symbolic notation, the opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. Okay. So now, based on the pattern above, what do you think the opposite of negative 5 equals? Okay. So you may notice that we can write this in a more simple form. Okay. The opposite of 5 is negative 5. The opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. Here we want the opposite of negative 5, which is the opposite of this number. Okay. So maybe you see what it is, but let's just start here. We're going to start with the innermost parentheses. We start at negative 5. We find the opposite. We're at positive 5, so we found this opposite. Now we take the opposite again, and we get back to negative 5. Okay. So notice that any two opposites cancel each other out. Okay. So if taking the opposite means reflecting about 0 in one direction, repeating that process will just take you back to where you started. Okay. So that's going to be a useful idea when we start talking about addition and subtraction.